G'day everyone! If you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know that I've just spent the last 4 years converting my Toyota Coaster school bus into a motorhome. My dog Pepper and I have actually been living in the bus for a whole year now, which seems crazy, just parked up on my parents' property, but we're about to finally hit the road and become official full-time nomads. This is something that I've been dreaming about for a long time, and I'm so excited that the dream is finally about to become reality. But honestly, I'm also a bit nervous. I've never traveled full time in a motorhome before. I've never traveled full time with a dog before. I've watched heaps of YouTube videos, I've asked a zillion questions in different Facebook groups, but everyone's situation's different and there's still so many unknowns. I have no real idea how this is all going to work out. So I thought I'd make this video just to talk about what my expectations of full-time bus life are, like what my plan is, the things I'm looking forward to, the things I'm worried about, and it'll be interesting to see after we've been on the road for a while to look back and see if these expectations actually turn out to be true or not. As I mentioned in my last video, I'm not setting out to see all the epic tourist destinations or to do the big lap. I'm lucky that I've already done quite a lot of travel in my life, both in Australia and overseas, and I've already seen a lot of the big ticket touristy places in Australia. In fact, there's really only one big thing left on my bucket list for travel in Australia, and that is that I really want to drive across the Nullarbor. But of course, Australia is a massive country and I've only seen a fraction of it. There's a lot of places that I've yet to explore. I just don't have a burning desire to see anything specific like right now. I'm happy to just go in a direction and see what we find. And I'm the sort of person that gets excited if I'm driving down a road that I've never been on before. So basically any new place that we visit is going to be interesting to me. In the past, I've always had to travel on a schedule. Like I've only had a certain amount of time to go on a holiday. And so I've had to plan and book things in advance in order to try and fit as much in as possible before I have to be back at work. But this time it's different. If things work out the way I hope they will, then I plan to be on the road indefinitely. I don't have a set time for travel. I don't have an end date. I want this to be my life. The past few years have felt really hectic. Like I've worked multiple jobs to try and save as much money as I possibly could. I spent every spare minute that I had working on the bus. And then this year, like selling everything I owned to move into the bus was a pretty stressful process. Plus I've had medical issues and cancer scares to deal with. I've had family stuff going on and my parents have needed quite a bit of help with stuff. And I'm just feeling like really worn out and what I really want to do right now is just to slow down. So I'm really looking forward to just slowing down, traveling slowly, exploring the back roads and spending more time in places. And I'm looking forward to being my own boss and working for myself and having more freedom to choose how I spend my time. But I know it's not going to be all sunsets and rainbows. I've done my research and I hope that I'm prepared as best as I can be for the everyday realities of full-time bus life, but I do have concerns. One thing I know that a lot of people are concerned about, especially when it comes to a woman traveling on her own, is safety. And I get asked a lot about this, but to be honest, it's not really something that I'm particularly worried about. I've always traveled alone. In fact, I prefer traveling alone. and in all my years of travel, both in Australia and overseas, including like solo backpacking around South America, I've only ever had one instance where I felt unsafe, and that was in Australia, and it would have been 20 years ago, and I was staying in Alice Springs, and I decided to do a day trip out to the Henbury meteorite craters because I wanted to do some hiking and see the craters, and it was 150 k's, I think, drive from Alice Springs. So anyway, I drove out there and I arrived in the car park. It's in the middle of nowhere, and there was one other van in the car park, and it was like a beat up looking panel van. and there was a guy, it had like the rear doors at the back, there was a guy wearing camouflage pants, scruffy looking guy, kind of rummaging around in the back of this panel van. And I just felt a really weird vibe, like it just, something didn't feel right. And I didn't even get out of the car. I turned around and I drove 150 k's back to Alice Springs, and I never got to see the craters. But you know, that was one instance out of the 30 years that I've been traveling where something didn't feel right. And so, you know, it's easy to feel like the world is an unsafe place when you see stories about backpacker murders and things like that on the news. But the reason those things make the news is because they're so uncommon. And in my experience, most people are kind and friendly. And I think as long as you use common sense and you trust your gut instincts, then you know, I think it's fine. And if I get to a place and it doesn't feel right, or I don't feel safe, I'll just leave. I won't stay there. So personal safety is obviously something that you know, I have in the back of my mind. You need to be aware of it, but I'm not particularly worried about that, and it's certainly not going to stop me from traveling. One of the biggest concerns I have is money. My budget is small. I see videos on YouTube of couples that talk about their budget for, like, their weekly budget for travel, and it is way more money than what I would ever have. I'd like to think that it's because they have families and they're traveling faster and they're paying like for more fuel, they're paying for tourist experiences, they're buying alcohol, souvenirs, all that kind of stuff. So I like to think that I could do it for a lot cheaper. And I do live very frugally, but even still, it can be really hard to stick to a low budget with the cost of living the way it is today. Right now, my entire weekly budget is $500. And that includes everything like food and groceries, medical costs, pet insurance, vet bills, phone and internet bills, bus rego and insurance, clothing, you name it, that includes everything. Now, I'm lucky at the moment that I don't have to pay rent, and I'm also not driving the bus much at the moment, so I'm not really spending very much on fuel. But that will change once we hit the road. I can afford to increase my budget a little bit to be able to spend more on fuel and also cover campground fees and so on. But even still, the most I can afford is $650 a week. So I'm budgeting $100 a week for groceries and just $20 a week for extra things like takeaway treats or museum entry fees, that kind of thing. Now, I'm already struggling to stick to that grocery budget here at home, let alone when we get out to more remote places and things are even more expensive. But at the moment, that's pretty much all I can afford for groceries. I'll have just $200 a week for fuel and camping accommodation fees. Now, I'm thinking kind of roughly $100 a week for fuel and $100 a week for camping, but it will vary a lot. My bus uses on average about 15 litres of diesel per 100 k's, so $100 for fuel at Queensland prices is probably only going to get me about 350 kilometres, so that would be the most that I could travel in a week. Now, obviously, it's a balance, so if I was doing all free camping and not having to pay anything for accommodation, then I could spend more on fuel and I could travel further. And in comparison to that, if I wanted to stay in one place, I could afford to stay at a showgrounds, for example, for a week, as long as I wasn't driving the bus anywhere. So it's going to be a balance. Is it realistic? I don't know, but it's what I have. I mean, I don't have an inheritance. I didn't win lotto. I didn't have a house that I could sell or rent out to make money. I'm basically going to be living off my savings and whatever I can earn along the way. I do get a little bit of study because I'm studying uni full time at the moment, but it isn't very much. And I also have a handmade stationery business that earns me a little bit of money, but that's been neglected for the last few years while I've been focusing on the bus. So I need to do a lot of work to get that back up and running again. And I also have started making a little bit of money from my YouTube channel, and I'm hoping that I can grow that and start to earn a bit more from that in the future as well. I know I can get work as I travel because a lot of people are able to find work as they're traveling around Australia, especially as we go into the more regional and remote areas. But I do have Pepper with me, and so that makes it quite a bit harder to be able to just get a job because I have to consider what's going to happen to her if I have to go to work, like who's going to look after her, where is she going to stay, all that kind of thing. So it's when you're traveling solo with a dog, it really is so much harder. Right now, I have enough savings to last a year on the road, and I'm hoping that I can build up my income in that time to be able to keep traveling for longer. But, who knows? I just know that I'm willing to give it a go and see what happens. Speaking of Pepper, traveling with a dog, especially when you're solo with a dog, does present a lot more challenges. I know it's going to limit places where we can visit. Obviously, national parks are out of the question because dogs are not allowed in almost all national parks in Australia. And a lot of indoor attractions like museums and galleries and things like that don't allow dogs either. I'm not going to be able to browse all the op shops and boutique stores that I usually like to explore. But I think I'm okay with that because, as I said, I've already done a lot of travel. I have seen a lot of the big national parks. So I'm happy to wait a few years and just not visit any national parks while Pepper's with me. But there are a lot of places that do allow dogs. So I'm sure we'll find lots of things to do. What I do worry about is how I'm going to manage everyday activities, like when I have to go shopping for supplies or if I have to see a doctor or a dentist on the road. I'm worried about what I'll do with Pepper in those situations if I have to leave her unattended in the bus. Now, it's not so much her physical safety that I'm worried about because I'm not stupid. I'm not going to leave her in the bus unless it's really cool and I've got the aircon running. She'll always have water and treats and all of that. I'm not silly. But I know that she would be anxious. I mean, she's an anxious dog and she does get a little bit anxious if I leave her unattended in strange places. I've been working on that and I've been trying to desensitize her and get her used to me leaving her alone in the bus, and we're making progress, but it's slow progress. I'm kind of at the point where I could go off for 10 or 15 minutes to use a bathroom at a campground, but I don't think we're at the stage where I could go into a supermarket for half an hour. I envy the people that I see on YouTube that can just leave their dog in their van for hours at a time and go off and do all the normal things, and their dog is perfectly happy and fine in the van. I hope that once we've been on the road for a while that Pepper will get more used to the way things are and that she will in time be able to do that, but we're not there yet. My biggest concern actually with leaving her in the bus is the reactions of other people. I'm more worried about some do-gooder from the public smashing a window without thinking because they want to rescue the dog that's inside, even though she's probably perfectly fine. And I agree, leaving a dog in a unattended car is never a good idea, but my bus is very different to a normal car. I mean, it's triple insulated, it's really well ventilated, it has aircon. And this is her home, so she's used to living in it. So it's very different than leaving them in a car. So, but people in the general public wouldn't necessarily be thinking that way. So that's what I worry most, that someone's going to come up and smash a window and be cranky because the dog's in the bus. So yeah, I do worry about that, and that's something that we're just going to have to figure out because there will be times when I have to go shopping or pick up something or, do something where Pepper can't come with me. And I just hope that we can, find a way to figure that out. By far, my number one biggest concern about traveling with Pepper is 1080 baits. And I'm terrified that she's going to pick one up. If you don't know what 1080 is, then Google it. I'm not going to go into the details here because honestly, it just makes me so angry. And I personally feel that there is no justification for using such a cruel poison when there are other humane alternatives available, and certainly alternatives that actually have an antidote. But anyway, 1080 is a big deal in Australia. It's used almost everywhere. And it's horrible, horrible. And I really am worried that Pepper's going to pick one up. She's the sort of dog that will just constantly scrounge for things to eat. She'll pick up animal poo, dead birds, all kinds of just ghastly stuff, and she'll do it faster than you can even see it. She'll pick it up and swallow it before you've even noticed what she's looking at. She knows the words leave it, but again, she'll ignore them if she thinks that what she's found is highly valuable. So I can't rely on that. Even when she's on a lead, it's too big a risk. I have purchased a muzzle for her to wear when we're in areas where I'm concerned about baits, but we're still in the process of training her to accept it and wear it, and I just don't feel anywhere near ready to deal with that yet. So yeah, I do have concerns, and I have no idea if this full-time bus life gig is going to work out for me and Pepper. It would be nice if I had a bit more money in the bank when we left. It would be nice if I had a proper income stream set up and running. It'd be nice if I had a bit more time to train Pepper and get her used to traveling in the bus. But I can't wait any longer. Life is short, and look, none of us know what's around the corner, and this could be my only chance to try out this lifestyle that I've been dreaming about for so many years. So I don't think I'm ever going to be 100% ready. I think I just need to take the plunge and see how it goes.